team is now turned into every man for themselves.
Yeah, that polo? You got polo on though, right?
I do, yeah. Well, okay. You know what's funny? I got this as a Christmas present. I'm not a look, man. This is the only polo thing I have in my entire closet. Truth be told, I swear. So before we get started, just want to say hello to everyone in the chat engaging the phenomenon. Explorer Lab, Rusty, Mixabox. You're new to the chat, man. I haven't seen you ever yet, so welcome. So Danny, before we get into the UAPs, the UFOs, and all that wonderful stuff, I know you're in Texas. Am I allowed to say that? God, I was like, oh man. Okay, good. Woo. I like to get to know my guests. So, you know, I have been exposed to a lot of wonderful media and a lot of wonderful people in the community that are doing insanely great work, and you are one of them. And I'm just dying to talk to you. And so, but before I wanted to get into that, I wanted to sort of get to know you, you know, where you're from, where you're born, you know, what you did in high school, what your interests were. And so let's, I guess, start with that. Where's Danny Silva from? And by the way, if I was going to name my kids, two names I have on the board. If I had a son, Danny's a very Cuban name, and Guillermo, two names that I love. Anyway, continue.
I was actually born in Miami, Florida. I'm not Cuban, but
yes,
born in Miami.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, you, me, and Lou Elizondo.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're all originally Florida boys.
Yeah, that's
I didn't
awesome.
Really grow up there. I moved away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And my dad was a journalist, and I was living all over the country. I lived in California. I grew up mostly in Arizona.
Okay.
I moved to Texas as an adult, and I've been here ever since.
And where was as a kid living? Where was your favorite state or sort of time with you said Arizona? I think that was the most time you spent as a sort of a kid.
Yeah. I grew up for most part in Arizona. California was cool. I was a real little kid, and I just remember like crazy stuff happening in California. Like they would have our teachers would come in and be like, "Don't buy anything from the pink ice cream man. Only go to the white ice cream man. The pink ice cream man sells drugs."
Oh no!
And crazy stuff. And like, then I moved to Arizona, you know, as a kid too, and I had a lot of fun there. And so I mostly got Arizona in my blood. Tucson, Arizona.
Right on. And you said your dad was a reporter. Was he a reporter in Tucson mainly?
He was an editor, actually. He did reporting also, but he did editing. He was all over the place. Doing editing, and I never, you know, was interested that much in journalism, but some of it kind of rubbed off on me. But I don't really consider myself a journalist. If anything, I'm a citizen journalist. I'm just some guy that's doing this kind of thing. But I have been around that world, and I got, you know, my dad, if I want to bounce ideas or questions off of him. And I've seen his belief go from basically non-existent in the world since 2017 to actually considering that, there's stuff flying around. And I think no one can doubt that now, that there's weird things flying around. And
so if your dad, would you say if your dad was a reporter or still an editor-in-chief, let's say, of a major newspaper, would he hire his son as a journalist?
I mean, it sounds like wouldn't, because like nepotism or something.
Right. But let's say if he could get you hired, you know, maybe at another news station, and just, do you think he put his name out there and be like, "Hey, my kid's actually pretty good at this. You should give him a shot"?
I don't know. I'm not sure, man. Probably not.
Yeah, no, you don't think so?
I have to go to school for it.
Fair enough.
Stuff, but he compliments me sometimes, and he sees what's happening, and he sees some of the people that are calling me, you know, and reading my stuff.
So in Arizona, I guess when you say you grew up there, is that where you attended high school for the most part?
Yeah, I was in Tucson. Yep.
Yeah. So in high school, what kind of kid were you? What were your interests?
I was. I started off as a good kid, and then started hanging around with a bunch of my friends and became a bad kid. And my interests were mainly like hip hop music. I was DJing from a young age, real young age. I was DJing from like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of my life towards trying to do the hip hop music thing, which was mostly a waste. But I have a couple credits on major label. One of them at least is on a major label, so that's cool.
That's cool.
it just never really came to fruition for me. And I wish I started doing some of this UFO stuff earlier and a few other like finance things that I'm into now. But I was mostly into hip hop a lot of my life, and especially in high school, that was just it for me. It was hip hop.
Yeah. So you weren't playing sports or anything like that. You were just mainly just doing music.
I played sports. Yeah, I was playing like basketball, but I sucked. You know, I was trying to play baseball, but I sucked.
Well, I know you watched wrestling, right? Because that was when I was going, and we're friends on Facebook, and so when I saw a picture of you dressed as a Dudley boy, I'm like, okay, that's gonna be our thumbnail. Like, it's gotta be. So I'm assuming you're a wrestling fan as well.
Wrestling's fun. I've watched it off and on, you know, my whole life. I remember seeing Hulk Hogan and Junkyard Dog and stuff when I was like a really little kid. And then I got back into it at certain times. And Dudley Boys are like the best. So they're so entertaining, man. I wish they were still in WWE.
Dude, I haven't thought of the Dudley Boys until I saw your picture. I'm like, oh my God, the memories just came rushing back, because I think the WWE is very similar to the SNL, where it has waves, where it's really bad and then it's really good again. And I lived through two great generations, you know, the Hulk Hogan, the Andre the Giant. And then I kind of lost interest in it. And then when I got back into it, it was sort of high school age. And that's when The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Goldberg, I was like, this is awesome. So when I saw the picture of the Dudley Boys, I'm like, oh my God, the Dudley Boys. So great Halloween costume. Did you have a Dudley brother to dress up with you for that?
I didn't, man. I was by myself.
Oh man, too bad. But you did. I hope you walked around with a metal chair.
You know what? I had I was at work for a lot of the day. Okay. So I had like a chair from like a figure, like an action figure.
Okay.
No, I had a table.
Oh, okay.
A little table. And
right on.
Where's the table? I took it out of my pocket and I like set it up and put it on the counter.
That's awesome. All right. Well, cool, dude. Well, so your interests were pretty much across the board. So when did you start looking at this topic and sort of deciding, okay, yeah, I'm going to start reporting on this. I'm going to put together did the Silva Record start as a blog, or what was your idea when you first conceived this?
I never even had the idea to do it. We were all obsessed after the ATIP story broke in 2017. Yeah. Elizondo came forward to the Stars Academy.
When you say we all, who's we all?
Basically what now has become UFO Twitter.
Okay.
UFO social media. There was only a few of us doing it at the time.
Yeah.
We were hungry. We were going crazy. We were foaming at the mouth. We wanted to know everything we could. Mm-hmm. We were just going nuts and not sleeping really until we figured like we could know everything. And it was just like Wild West back then. No one was reporting on it, or very few people. You know, George Knapp and a few other people, but not really on social media as much. And a few friends of mine, including Andreas, aka Adam.
Yeah.
You'll see him writing still. And he was one of them, and they were like, Danny, we're starting a website. We're going to start writing blogs, and you have to do it with us. And I was like, really? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to write. And I still don't know how to write. But, and they just kind of like bugged the heck out of me. There were some other guys, Keith, Jason, Christian, a few other dudes. And there was a website we were doing called UAP Info, and that didn't last too long, and it kind of disbanded. And then I just started Silva Record, and real quickly when we started UAP Info, we realized that we could break our own stories in the UFO community. And once you put out a blog, everybody in the UFO community was reading it like immediately. Yeah. And I had a background from doing music and doing some other stuff on just kind of promoting and things like that. So. But you know, at the same time, the goal is not the UFO community; it's the whole world. But getting to the UFO community is not super hard. Yeah, you can kind of jump in, and everyone's going to read your stuff. And if you have new news or you're breaking stories, especially, and we had some big ones. I mean, we had thanks to a guy named Twitter user Jay, we had Elizondo's resignation letter, which was like a real hot commodity. Everyone wanted to see it, and we were like, well, the first people to put it on our website. When we had a few other things, and it's just amazing. And you know, we had like the trolls right off the bat, and fans reading everything right off the bat, and it just kind of went from there. And I just got obsessed with it. I started bugging all these sources, you know, all I could, just to be respectful, but at the same time, I was bugging the heck out of him trying to get information. And it was kind of like To the Stars Academy was like, it was it, man. We just wanted to know everything. It was too crazy, way too crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so how do you feel about the information that's come out since then?
There's been a lot of different information. A lot of things have been great. You know, I have my criticisms because To the Stars Academy took investor money. Not that it was wrong at the time, but now they still have it. And there's a lot of people that invested just because of Elizondo, just because of Steve Justice, just because they said they were going to build a ship. And that doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. But then there's a lot of great things. Like there's nothing you can take away from To the Stars Academy, really. They got the videos out. They changed the world. They changed the media's perspective on it. They changed the world's perspective. Some people will argue that the whole world doesn't know about it. Well, of course not. The whole world doesn't. We thought the Tic Tac was going to be the smoking gun, and we're still astonished to this day that the Tic Tac isn't the smoking gun, but it's a smoking gun.
Yeah.
And it's just, we know that they just need more. We need more smoking guns. But nothing did ever, you know, they accomplished their goals in a way. They accomplished that first goal at least. And Elizondo coming forward and then putting out the videos, and Chris Mellon and these guys, you know, no one can ever take that away. Tom DeLonge changed the world in that regard. So I'm still rooting for him, and I hope he does great with his media projects. I've never spoken to him. I'd like to talk to him, but he's just, I can't take anything away from him. My biggest concern is the people that invested, and are they going to get a return on their money, even though they knew it was a,
yeah. Well, no, I'll answer that question right now. No, they're not getting a return on their money. That's how investments work. But, you know, as long as it wasn't a nefarious, you know, a way of raising money for these stocks, like they did make some pretty wild claims, but some of those claims that they also made, they kind of came through with for the most part. You know, they at least changed the conversation, and I think at best that's a pretty good thing. But I was thinking about that as you said that, like how, and I don't know if you invested in that, but I remember when it came out, I was like, man, should I put $1,000 into this? Like, this could be insane, right? This could be crazy. But then I was like, nah, let me fix my car instead. And I went that route, and I didn't do it. But I can tell you, I'm kind of happy now in retrospect, just because you could play devil's advocate, that I didn't. Because if I had, I think I would be upset. I think I, you know, if you can convince enough of people to organize, maybe you could even, you know, get some legal counsel and possibly, you know, put an argument for they kind of stole our money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, they promised technology, and a lot of people invested because of the tech.
Right.
Other people invested just as a donation, and other people invested because they wanted the conversation to be changed, which they did that.
Right.
If you invested because of the tech, and now they've moved away from the tech, then that's unfortunate, and that's probably my biggest criticism.
Yeah, no, that's a bummer, man, because I mean, that when they whipped out that spaceship, I'm like, okay, what is going on here? Because I'm sure you were freaking out at that time too. And what's funny is, you know, when you said nobody knows about this, I kind of agree with that statement. Like I'm talking to a Fox News contributor tomorrow. He had no clue. And he was on the news. Multiple times. I mean, he's been on the news easily 20, 30 times in the last four and a half years. And I think I mean, you know, I don't want to get political. I think there was the executive branch was very distracting the last 4 years. And I think this news, in conjunction with the 24-hour news cycle, nothing lasts in that 24-hour news cycle for more than 48 hours at most, unless it's like, you know, 9/11 or, you know, some sort of terrorist attack or, you know, shooting, whatever. You know, it's hard for things to stay in the news because they constantly have to work for those ratings. What do you think about that?
I've been contacted by major journalists.
Yeah.
I know they read my stuff. At the same time, it's not enough.
Yeah.
But everyone is trying to kind of get these people's ear. Just in the last couple of weeks, I've had so many more journalists contact me. So
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive, and I can't just.
What are they saying when they kind? You don't have to give any names, but what are they asking? Like, what are they saying?
First it was, over the years, people would contact me and be like, "Hey, I read your stuff. You're doing good work. The world is changing." And then, but just in the past weeks or a couple weeks since the USS Kidd story broke, and I was the first person to have that on my blog a year ago, thanks to Dave Beatty's work. All thanks to Dave Beatty, but I was technically the first person to write about it a year ago. So I've had a bunch of people contact me, and they're just like, well, they want to know about the USS Kidd.
Did they contact you when you first wrote the article, or when this new USS Kidd story came out? Yeah, okay.
No,
so it had to be sort of confirmed by their buddies before they came back to you and said,
right.
Hey, this is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah. It was when it blew up in the last month or whatever, and I don't think it's stopping. We're going to see some more on it, and there's a lot of interest. This story has a lot of legs. In many ways, it's more compelling than the Nimitz. What's holding us back from comparing it to the Nimitz is a video, which would be huge, and of course witnesses.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm sorry to cut you off. How many ships were in? Was it a fleet like the Nimitz?
The Nimitz,
or was it just one ship?
The reports of fleets, but what Fravor reportedly saw was just one Tic Tac.
No, I don't mean like fleets in the sky. What I meant was, was it a U.S. naval fleet, or was it just the USS Kidd?
No, it was a bunch of ships. Yeah.
Okay.
Ships, yeah.
Got it. So there should be some kind of data. I would think maybe even video, because I've read that some of these objects were right above the landing pads. No.
Yep, and they were. We know from the deck logs that Dave Beatty FOIA'd that there were Snoopy teams, and those Snoopy teams go up onto the top of the ship and they record. And they take pictures, and so there's probably hours of video, hundreds, if not thousands, of photos. There was FLIRs reportedly on some of these guns or some of this other stuff that was aimed at these things, and this wasn't just a one-day event either, apparently. So there's tons of it. And now, will we ever see it? I don't know, but there's a lot of data. There's a lot of video. There's everything, and plus they didn't have to scramble ships towards these things, although they may have done that.
Yeah,
but the UFOs were apparently really close to the ship, whereas with the Nimitz, they had to scramble the fighters to get closer to them.
Ooh, that's. I mean, okay. So I'm trying to imagine in my mind when these things show up, because I believe, what's the restricted area around a naval ship? Is it like 350 feet or yards or something like that? You can't come within that a naval ship.
I don't know what it is, but
it's something like 400 yards. It's something like that, and where if you get within that vicinity, they reach out to you either if you're on a boat, they'll hit you up on the radio, and if they can't get you on the radio, they'll blare something over the speakers. I mean, we've come across submarines when I've been fishing, and that's exactly what happened. And so if these things aren't responding to their warnings, did they fire on these things, do you think? Or that's just out of this world? They would never do that because they're literally just off the coast of the United States.
No, I don't think that's something that we should be considering that. I've asked Dave about that. I don't think he's found it in the logs. Now, he's the expert. I'm kind of just reporting what he's told me. And I could be getting some stuff wrong, but according to him, and I could be wrong about this, I think he was saying that they had the guns actually aimed at these things, and some of those guns had the FLIRs on them. Right. I'm
assuming as these guns are pointed at it, they're trying to communicate, hey, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking like a blockbuster movie. A lot of these things could be movies, but this one really could be a movie. And I mean, it would just be some insane, kind of like UFOs all around these battleships. And I mean, people imagine being on the ships freaking out. Now, probably what all these people are thinking is they're drones. They're not even going to think they're UFOs, probably. Right. Because they're training as drones.
Well, they use the word drone, right?
Yeah, and even I've talked to some Navy people. Some of them are into the UFO thing, but a lot of them just think they're drones. I talked to a Navy guy a couple of weeks ago I just ran up on him because I saw him in uniform, and he was like, "Yeah, I've seen foreign drones and I've seen United States drones." And I was asking him about the Nimitz and UFOs. He's like, "Oh, that was way long ago." I'm like, "Well, you're 20, dude, so it seemed like a long time for you, but I mean, it was only 2004 for us, and it's not that long ago." But yeah, so I think automatically, if they see lights in the sky or something like that, it's automatically an advanced drone, and they're not necessarily thinking about UFOs. So maybe that makes them less scared.
That's interesting. Because well, then if they are drones, then they can only be ours. Because I can't imagine. I mean, I've looked at the most advanced drone tech, and when I think of drone, I'm also thinking of just something that can hover, so some sort of chopper drone, something with a blade. If it's hovering above, a landing pad, especially. When we're talking about stealth drones, like what we develop, that look like a B-2 bomber, those things can go for a real long time. But I mean, if it's foreign drones, like what I'm thinking of with a propeller, and there are some very advanced versions of those drones that you can even buy commercially. I've talked about them on this channel where they have the capability of, 2-hour flight time. Like, it's pretty impressive. But past that, those things need to go back to some sort of landing base to either get new batteries or whatever it is. So if it's a foreign drone, then that means they need some sort of base for those drones to go back to, or they're just dumping the drones in the water, which, if that's the case, those could be recovered and studied and back engineered, by us. So, I mean, what do you think? What do you think about that?
I'm no expert on the tech. We're always going to have the question hanging over us. Is it advanced tech from, humans, or is it non-human intelligence? I listen to people like Tyler Rogaway, who is an expert on the tech. And, sometimes they'll be thinking that some of these drones, and I think some of these sightings are regular drones, or not regular.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also think that some of them are non-human intelligence UFOs.
Yeah.
But when I talk to him about it and things like that, he'll be telling me, some of these drones, they can come off a ship or they can come off a submarine. But you would think that if there's a fleet there and there's so many sensors, they would know if there was a ship around there, or if they know if there's a submarine around there. So I'm kind of just reading these stories like everyone else, and I'm seeing how the argument is laid out so well about, is it a drone or is it not? And but we're going to need some really irrefutable evidence in order to prove it to the public. But then I hear Elizondo's statements about how he basically thinks it's not drones. So that goes a long way with me.
Well, he also said that they use the word drones just so that way it doesn't cause a media mess, because if they call it a UAP, then now you've got a can of worms that you really are. It's going to be hard to deal with. That's interesting, man. So when you guys submit FOIA requests now, should you start requesting for drones?
I don't do FOIA requests myself, not yet.
Yeah.
A lot of other people do. Yeah, they're looking at the word drones. They're not always looking for UAP, because it's not. They're not looking for UFOs. They're looking for all these different words. Sometimes they don't have to put those words in. They're just requesting deck logs, or things like that. And then you just read the deck logs and see all the crazy stuff that's happening. And it's really awesome that they were able to get a lot of these deck logs back. And I think when I say the story has legs, I think there's going to be a lot more to it. Really, though, we need some witnesses to come forward. What we had in our favor with the Nimitz was 2004, so some of those guys were retired. And I think I put this on my blog, I can't remember, but this was 2019, so there's probably still a lot of active duty guys. Now, with the Roosevelt and East Coast events in 2015, some of them were active duty, and for whatever reason, they were cleared to speak to the New York Times. They were cleared to speak to Elizondo on Unidentified. So I don't know how that happened, but however it did, that would be really cool if they pulled some strings with the Navy this time and got some of these active duty members to come forward. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it would be great if it did. Yeah.
Well, to double down on what you said, I think a lot of these things that people report are also drones, only because, when you mentioned Unidentified season 2, they had a beautiful example of drone technology, swarm drone technology specifically. That was introduced in 2015 by the military, which in my mind tells me they could have been using that for 20, 25 years, maybe, that kind of tech. And, they could have easily caused a lot of misidentifications and reports, because you put 15 drones in the sky and you make it look like a shape. People fill in the the dark spots, and all of a sudden it's a UFO. And I'm like, dude, that's a perfect example. Like I loved when they did that, because I was like, holy cow, dude, that I think explains a lot. What do you think about that drone tech that they did?
We have our work cut out for us as far as saying something is like a UFO. I've seen weird lights in the sky. I've seen weird things in the sky. Me personally, I can't ever say it's a UFO because it didn't do a right angle turn or blast off or something. So I have to assume it's a drone. And basically, we also have to do that now when we're looking at these things. Now, when they're around these Navy ships, it really makes it weirder, though, because who is doing this? And it makes it very, very odd.
Well, it's only, I feel like it's only two options as to who's doing it. It's either American tech that they're testing, but then again, why talk about it if that's what it is? Or it's something else that we don't have the answer to yet.
And it's in the same spot as the Nimitz. This story is crazy.
You're right. I didn't even think about that. It is in the same spot as the Nimitz. Damn, dude. Well, you make a good point on we probably won't get some witnesses soon because they're probably still very active duty members.
I hope we do.
That would be wonderful, of course. I mean, with the new regulations that the Navy has set out, maybe, who knows? Maybe we get lucky. That would be wonderful. Damn, dude. You're right. This story's got some serious legs. I mean, what do you think you think the next step with this story is going to be the logs?
I'm not so sure. I think more is coming out about it. The whole world seemingly is on this now. A lot of different great professional journalists are on this. And they're all digging into it now. It went viral. I love it when this happens and UFO story goes viral. This has really been a great run up. It was a really great week and a half, 2 weeks. Because Ratcliffe came out and spoke. That went viral all over the world. And then this story broke like a week later or half a week later. And it just kind of exploded. On top of that, we have the UAPTF report. So this is like the promotion to the run-up of the UAPTF report.
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I saw when particularly when the debrief started posting stuff. And then after I talked to Lou, I'm like, okay, I got the exact same feeling as you did. I'm like, this is maybe the best year ever for this topic, because it seems like almost now, especially like you said in the last 2 weeks, we're talking about this every day. And when I say we, I mean the national media. Like you're right. This has gone viral. They're paying attention to it. And I was like, dude, this is perfect momentum for what we're doing on April 24th for the Big Phone Home. I mean, with all of this information coming out, doubling down on that information with having people call and be like, hey, we want to know more about the USS Kidd. We want to know more about the Nimitz. We want to know more about, the Go Fast video and the East Coast incursions that people have been talking about. We want to know about the military bases that these things are showing up over. Which military bases is Senator Rubio talking about? Are they nuclear? Are they non-nuclear? Where are they? Why are they there? What are they? I mean, like, these are very valid questions to what seems to be a buildup of some really fun information coming down the pipe.
It's the run-up, man. It's the run-up. It's the promotional run-up. You see this. I mess around with stocks a lot now, and I'm thinking about stocks all the time. And you see this run-up on stocks, and when there's a date in the future, the stock kind of will sometimes grind up and gain momentum and gain worth. And I feel like the subject is gaining worth, and it started in 2017 thanks to Elizondo and TTSA and Mellon. It hasn't stopped. We've had kind of lulls where it was kind of got boring. There wasn't a story for a long time, but UFO Twitter and social media kind of kept it just interesting. But there's been a lot of great stuff this year, and this is what we wanted ever since we heard about the task force, and then we heard about the report. We wanted this run up to happen, and hopefully it's not going to stop. And I think every day we're chipping away at these mainstream media guys being more interested in this. And it's been kind of one-sided politically, but I think the other side is getting more into it now, and we can see that by more outlets getting interested.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the politics side of this for a minute. The exopolitics, I guess we could call it. When you see, I did a video on my channel about Marco Rubio, and sort of, I think this is, and he's obviously spoken about this before, but the TMZ video in particular, I really, really liked. And the reason why was because the guy behind the camera was not a polished journalist. This was a guy who was just thinking of questions off the top of his head that I think a lot of average, everyday American citizens, if they were as informed as that guy was, they would ask these questions because they're simple. They're sort of the first questions anybody who's first coming to this would ask. And I was like, this is awesome because these are unprepared questions. He doesn't have a response to these, but the responses that he gave, I think, set the playbook for any senator, congressman, public official, president, even, to talk about this in a very calm, rational manner. And when the questions go to crazy town, you just come back to, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about with the alien and meeting them, and I don't know. Here's what I do know. Ba 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 ba. All of these things we just talked about. What do you think is the political? Why is Marco Rubio doing this? Because there's one thing about Rubio, he is a very good politician. Whether you like him, you don't like him, he knows what he's doing. And I played two clips. One, he was speaking about extending the COVID PPP loans for small businesses, and it's you could literally take out that topic and plug in UAP. And he speaks about it the exact same way. So what do you think? And of course, this is speculation, but what do you think he is politically doing?
I'm not sure what his goal is. I mean,
motivations around.
Yeah, I'd like to think that he's genuinely concerned. But what I know is that the briefings worked. The briefings that Elizondo, Mellon, To the Stars Academy, the UAPTF guys, other people we don't know the names of, or organizations we don't know the names of, their briefings worked. And what's happened since 2017 has worked. That's why there's the task force currently. I think sometimes we'll hear about the task force and it gets played down a little bit, but it was a great accomplishment. It is the evolution of ATIP. ATIP didn't end. We do want a permanent fixture of an organization because the task force is not permanent. But everything worked, basically. What Lou has done worked. What Mellon has done worked. And that's amazing. So I think these politicians are responding, whether it's Marco Rubio, Mark Warner. Harry Reid was one of the first guys many years ago to what Harry Reid has done worked. So
right.
It's great. And it's kind of, it's something we can kind of hang our hats on. And the Washington stuff has worked. It's not a laughing matter anymore. It's working in the media. It's working in Washington. Of course, people will be on Twitter saying, Danny, nobody cares. Well, a lot of people do care.
Yeah.
Not enough people care. And that's why we're working so hard to be advocates and doing what you do and doing what everybody does. That's why we're working so hard. But we've also accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
And it's been a great ride since 2017. I don't see it stopping.
No, there's no chance.
Yeah. And even if the report doesn't come out, or if it's pushed back or whatever, the USS Kidd, it didn't come out because of the government. It came out because of Dave Beatty. Like, literally because of Dave Beatty, that's why we know about that story. So that came from citizens.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
No, there's more. That's exactly what we need. We need more Dave Beatty's. We need more Danny Silvas. We need more people asking these questions and demanding answers and doing it by the rule book, by their little club that they set up, and just trying to find the holes in the club and see where we could get the data from. And I think you're right, man. It's working. It's happening. So what do you think we'll get to sort of the new information that's come out shortly, but what do you think is the next step from a media perspective? I mean, I think that I agree with you. I think this report, I hope it gets delayed, because that's what Lou Elizondo is asking. That's what he also hopes. He said it multiple times that we should, if you call, if you write, if you tweet your local or state representative about this topic, one of the things you should request is an additional 180 days with an interim report in the meantime, which I think would be wonderful. You know, give them, look, we've all been waiting, and in your case, especially since 2017, in my case, since I had my sighting when I was 13, a lot of us has been waiting for this information for a very, very long time. In the meantime, we're kind of getting some nice little tasters. Let's just wait. Give them the additional 180 days, so that way there's less excuses. If they say, oh, we don't have enough time, here's the best report we got, and then they shove this last minute together thing with very little data or substance to it, and that's it. They don't have to ever do it ever again. If we give them the 180-day buffer, it gives them the opportunity to be like, to not say, oh, well, we didn't have enough time. Sorry, you know, like there's no more excuses. You guys had the extra time to coordinate all of this data and information. We want to see the report. So I would like to see that. I would also love to see a yearly report. You know, every year we should get UAP data. Every year we should get a new case or a new data point or a new something that can be either open sourced by everyone, and maybe we get tiers of it. Maybe we get an open source report where everyone could look at it, and then we get a report for scientists like the SCU, and they get to look at the data, and they are bound by a non-disclosure agreement. And they get to look at the data and study the data, and then go back to the government and say, okay, this is what we found. And so that way science gets involved with this, because this is what this, for me, I think the biggest issue from the government is that they're trying to compartmentalize this information, and they're not letting science do science. And to do science, you need a lot of scientists talking to each other, cross-referencing each other, and top secret information doesn't allow for that. So what do you think? Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, I agree with all that. Sometimes I wonder if the task force kind of has to be sacrificed in order for us to get a permanent agency or a permanent UAP thing going. Mm-hmm. And maybe the task force is kind of doomed. You know,
how about a committee? How great would it be if we had a senatorial committee?
Yeah. We need a permanent fixture, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if Lou or Mellon or someone we've never heard of ran it even. But that's what we need.
Yeah. I would love to see a UAP task force senatorial committee. Like, I want to see, senators from both sides of the aisle forced to talk about this once a year. I think that would do a hell of a lot of good. And gosh, that's a great idea. I think that's something, to possibly put into one of those, into however you request more data. Okay. I like this conversation so far. How you feeling, Danny?
I'm feeling good, man. Thank you.
No, dude, this is fun. So before we keep going, I want to say thank you to everybody who's joining us. We got 26 people, which, hey, for this tiny little channel, that's a lot of people. So welcome, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting so close, you guys. But I want to say welcome to Bushi Bato, Michael Boyle, Rodrigo Vieira is in here. He's always a really wonderful supporter. Andy Oates. We got John Poe, who I believe is new. Haven't seen your name in the chat ever before, so welcome. Don't forget to subscribe. Rusty, you guys, I'm not reading a lot of these chats just because I'm having such a great combo here with Mr. Silva, and we're gonna keep going with it. So, Danny, what do you think this is building up to? of course, this is speculation, but let me ask you this. What would you like to see? Let's say in 180 days, or on June 25th, nothing really comes out. Maybe there's an interim report and the extension goes through. And then in an additional 180 days, what would you like to see happen? Like, what's your wish list, I guess, if you could ask for anything?
If I could ask for anything, I mean, I want the whole sandwich. I want everything, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. You know, I'm trying to kind of have more realistic expectations.
Of course, yes.
I'd like for them to say it's not ours for sure, and it's not a adversary for sure. That would be cool.
But haven't they said that? I'm sorry to stop you, but haven't they done that?
They kind of beat around the bush a little bit. They kind of hint at it. But they're beating around the bush, and
I mean, Marco Rubio straight up said it.
Yeah,
that's a senator. He's like, look, there's things flying over our military bases, and I think there was a wording he used which made me think, oh, it's a nuclear base, and they don't know what they are. They just straight up don't know what they are. So,
and we know some of the nuclear bases. Reed was talking about the ones in Montana and some of this other stuff, and that's documented. But
right,
I don't know. I would like that in plain English, but can they definitively say that? Will people still doubt them? I'm not sure, because how can you say for sure it's not an adversary unless you are a member of the Chinese government or something? So I don't know. What else would I like? I want some of these clear videos, man, and clear. We know they have it. They have clear videos. They have.
When they say they have,
I would like debris. We know they have debris.
Yeah. Well, satellite images also interest me as well, because you can't. I don't think you could fake a satellite image, and if they're picking things up from a satellite, that tells me it might be enormous.
Yeah, and the satellite stuff's been going, ever since we. Yeah. So we're talking decades and decades. Even one just, blasting across the planet, really fast, something a plane could never do. That would be pretty compelling data, and they probably had that for a really long time. But I'd like for them to go into the debris field, and if not, heck, if I'm really getting what I want, let's talk about bodies.
You think there's bodies?
I usually skip that topic when I'm talking about sources because it's so wild. But yes, I think there probably is bodies. But even just taking that out, we know for a fact that there's debris. And we hang our hats on that. And Lou went on Fox News national TV and said there's debris. Simply put, yes, quote unquote. So I think that is going to be that's something we know for sure.
He also spoke, and forgive me, everyone in the audience, because I just listened to this interview. He had an interview with an African-American journalist. He's a very progressive, sort of libertarian-leaning journalist. I'm forgetting the name of his show because I just became aware of him. He had an interview with Lou Elizondo, and he was talking specifically about the technology that this crashed. So then that means that if it crashed, that something was controlling it, which means that it is a technology. And, that's when Lou sort of really went on eggshells. Jamal, is that right? Is that the guy's name? I'm sorry. Somebody said it in the chat here, so that might be his name. That sounds familiar. I could be wrong, but anyway, so I think I would love to see materials as well, and I would love to see specifically what sort of experiments they have run on it, because when TTSA first came out, I remember they came into an agreement, a CRADA agreement with the military to study these metamaterials, and the military is going to give them the lab, the equipment, and by the way, you don't have to pay us back, but whatever tech you find, you have to give it to us first. And I've been dying to know what has come out of that experiment or that agreement, and we haven't heard about it since.
We haven't heard about it. I've heard it's still going on. There's a lot of other people looking at the debris. Jacques Vallée and Gary Nolan, but not only them, there's other people we don't know about it. Hopefully it'll come out, but there's a lot of people studying debris. So that's pretty cool. And it's something that we know is going on. That's what's really interesting to me is we have these kind of celebrity UFO names that we know about. and there's probably a lot more that we don't know their names because they don't want to be public.
Right.
And they're doing a lot of crazy work.
Right. Well, let's go back. And I know you don't like talking about this, but let's just go back to the bodies for a second, because I do like just having fun and speculating, because it is fun to think about.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to guess, I'll just tell you my guess, and then you can comment on it. If I had to take a guess, if we do have quote unquote bodies, do you think they are malleable? In other words, are they, do they have a conscience? Do they have feelings? Do they get angry? Do they have those human attributes? Or do you think it's more of a robot or AI, some sort of AI that almost like drones, information collecting drones that somebody sends out into the cosmos, and they wait for these things to come back with data, just like we're doing with Mars? What do you think?
I have no idea, man. I'm
obviously,
I'm listening to the same stuff you are. One thing I have heard, because I just have to go by what I've heard from sources that I trust, and sometimes I get wrong information from sources I trust, which really messes my head up. But one thing I have heard is there's different species, so that really blew my mind when I heard that. I heard that what's messing with the Navy is all one species, so that was really interesting to me. That killed me. I don't know much else about that. What did interest me in that same interview where you were citing with Lou recently, he was talking about we may know the size of he was kind of speculating and beating around the bush, but he was saying we may know the size of the aliens basically due to seeing, what size the chair in the craft is. Or what they're touching, and that kind of tripped me out. I've never heard Lou talk like that before. Yeah, man, he's well. I mean, that was one of the best interviews I've seen, because the questions were so sharp, and there was no way for him to sort of back out of it without answering it in some way, which I thought was great. So, do you think? Do you think there's an initiative right now from the government perspective to start letting people like Lou Elizondo, letting their pilots talk without reprimanding them or getting them in trouble? I mean, a lot of these, especially like the Nimitz video, the Go Fast, and the Tic Tac, those videos have been floating around on the internet for almost a decade. They were unclassified, of course, but nobody really paid attention to them because the Navy never said, yeah, those are ours. Those are real. It wasn't until that New York Times article pointed out that, these are legitimate article or these are legitimate videos. And then the Navy a year later came out. I was like, yes, those are real. What do you think there is an agenda of some kind from the government perspective just to start greasing the gears of this, whatever's coming? The Nimitz Tic Tac video was leaked on that German website. Now the Go Fast and Gamble, it wasn't. So those were new videos.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone always asks those questions. Why? What's the green light? I've asked that question to sources a bunch of times, and sometimes I'll get different answers, or I'll get answers that I don't really understand. Was it a green light? Dr. Eric Davis, in a really interesting interview years ago, he told Alejandro Rojas that basically it was a perfect storm of people just working really, really hard, and a lot of people interested in the topic. So I don't know. Is there some big green light that happened? It does seem like there's different factions within the government. One faction wants this out. Another faction is fighting against it. But that's like the main question. And, you can get really weird with it when you listen to Tom DeLonge stuff where he's talking about, like elites, controlling things. And it's really hard. At first, I started getting really weird with it. Like, what the heck? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just as simple as they're going to look bad because it's continuously happening. And it's happening so much around our military that there's no way for them to cover it up. We can kind of look at that with the USS Kidd because that just came out. And how can you get a whole ship or multiple ships of sailors or whoever to all keep quiet? Because a few of them are going to start telling their friends. Most of them might keep quiet, and it's still amazing that no one else from the USS Kidd has really came forward. I'm surprised about that. Yeah. But still, there was those leaks, and that's how Dave Beatty found out about it. So maybe there's just no way to keep this stuff quiet, and maybe that's part of it. I'm not sure. Maybe there's some big secret reason that we just don't know about. I don't know the ultimate answer. Everyone always asks that question. That's the $1 billion question. Why is this happening now? Why was it okay? Why did Lou come forward and not get these huge repercussions to talk about it? I'm not really sure, man. And some people think it's a huge scam too. Let's look at the other side. They think it's a scam. There are no UFOs. They think that it's our tech, and this is a scam to get billions and billions of dollars of defense budget. So that's the naysayer side.
I mean,
I guess we can't rule it out 100%. I don't believe that. It could be true, but we can't rule it out.
Yeah. Well, if we're being as subjective as we can, the most logical explanation would be the latter one, only because I think to me that's easier to pull off than an intelligence finding us. But hey, I could be 1 billion% wrong on this, but for me, just odds wise, if I had to take a bet, if I had to put my money on it, I would say that that's a very good. I don't know where I'd put my money, let's put it that way, but I'd have a hard time deciding which one is more just possible, right?
Yeah. And then we've got to put other stuff in there.
Right.
Starting thousands of years ago. There was the Foo Fighters during World War II. There was the whole abduction phenomenon, which is crazy when you think about that. I mean, imagine the government coming out and saying, "Hey, UFOs are real, aliens are real. By the way, you can be abducted at any time, and there's nothing you can do to stop it."
Yeah,
people are going to freak out. The stock market's going to crash. Bad stuff will happen. At the same time, we've had all these revelations in the last 3 years. No one has really gotten scared. A lot of people don't even care as much as we would want them to care.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really hard to predict the future, but I don't know. I think when you look at the big picture, you look at the history of the subject going back thousands of years. You look at abductions, even though some people say those are military. It becomes less likely the whole technology scam, defense bill scam. That becomes less likely when you look at the big picture. But we don't know. And I've spoken to very high-level people that say that's what's happening. Or one person in particular, that would blow everyone's mind. They very much think that, and they think there are no non-human intelligence UFOs. They think it's all our technology, our secret advanced tech.
Yeah. Well, let me, let's put this theory out there. If, because you just said, we've got, and it's true, we've got documentations from thousands of years ago. We've got paintings that hang in museums. We've got, cave drawings all over the world and things that repeat themselves a lot, especially in the ancient part of this. What's to say that and I don't want to get into Bob Lazar, but let's say that one theory is right, that archaeological they find something, digging something up, and they're like, holy shit. And maybe they find it in the 40s or 50s. And it's taken them 70 years to figure this out. And now they've got it. And I love Michio Kaku's explanation about dumping technology on a society. It takes a very, very, very long time to take new technology and introduce it into society, because you've got to figure out what are the ramifications of this before you do it. The example he used was a matter maker. He's like, in 20 years, we'll have the ability to have a machine that can create matter. Like, it's a matter maker. But you can't just put that machine in somebody's living room and say, okay, go for it, because they can, type in a gun or a bomb or whatever. So it takes 100 years for the people developing that technology to sort of make it safe, get it approved, and then put it into society. Maybe this is one of these things where we've got the tech, we've figured it out. We've got tech that can do these crazy maneuvers with maybe it's some sort of gravitational tech. I don't know, because I'm not a physicist. I have no idea how this stuff would work, but maybe they cracked it. And this story is a perfect cover for them to test and run and perfect that tech as they're figuring out how to use it. And then, who know? But then again, how do you eventually, you're going to have to introduce that tech eventually, but do they do it slowly? Like, do they take a piece of it and introduce it into a car? maybe we take the gravitational tech and we start putting it into streets, so then cars can be run off of a computer program, and there's no more car crashes. I mean, there's ways to sort of sneak that tech into society. But what do you think of that crazy long-winded conspiracy theory?
It is. It's a possibility, if there is sort of weird tech and they don't want it to get into the public's hands, because maybe if you have that tech, you can blow up a whole city easily.
Right.
I just try to kind of look at what I believe we can kind of take to the bank, and there's certain facts. Now, can I prove them in a court of law? I don't know, maybe not, but I believe Elizondo when he's saying we have debris. I believe that a lot of these crashes were real, at least some of them were real, and those go back decades and decades into the 40s and 50s. I believe there's crashes all over the world, not just the United States. We know that other countries are seeing these drone or UFO incursions. Japan was talking about it recently. So this stuff is not just United States either, and that means they're going all over the world. I don't know. It goes back so far that I don't know. I don't see that really. And that means we've had the tech since the 40s. Yeah.
Well, it is fair to say, though, for the geographical size of this country compared to, say, Asia or Russia or Africa, like we are the size of Texas compared to those three countries. We get more UFO sightings here than anywhere else on the planet. Why? There's got to be a reason for that. I mean, what are yours? Do you have a theory? Have you ever thought of that?
I never knew that was true, but yeah, if that is the case, that's really weird.
I mean, it seems like the biggest cases that have ever been brought to public attention have seemed to stem from this country. Roswell, Betty Barney Hill, the 2017 articles, the Nimitz, the kid, it's the list goes on and on and on and on. I can think of a handful of international, but nothing on the level of, say, Roswell.
Yeah.
Or I might be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure. I go back and forth. Sometimes I'll talk to scientists.
Yeah.
Or other sources, and I'll be talking to, let's say, about Colaris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I'll be talking about Colaris, which was this crazy thing, and they'll be like, well, Danny, there's lots of different Colarises. The world just doesn't know about them. And I'll be talking to people about the Nimitz or about now the USS Kidd, and they'll be like, well, Danny, this stuff is happening to the military all the time. This is just what the public knows. Yeah. And you talk to Lou even, but I guess this is still United. Well, no, the Colaris isn't. The Navy stuff is still United States centric. But you just talk to even Lou, or I've heard Lou say things like that. Where there's just more information and he just can't talk about it because the rest of it is classified. So I'm not sure. I know that it has been other Colaris type events, and those are all around the world. I don't know. I don't know, but.
Yeah,
I have heard people say it's a world phenomenon, but I don't know. We do hear a lot about our stuff. We have Phoenix, we have Stephenville, we have these huge things. Are we not hearing about them from other countries because we don't live there? I'm not really sure, but
I find it interesting. I mean, I know it happens all around the world, obviously, but it just seems like I don't know. It just seems like the most of the zeitgeist sort of memories from this topic seem to all stem from here. It's weird. I mean, of course, when you go back to an ancient aliens kind of theory, then you go into South America and Africa and Egypt, and then that's when it sort of starts spreading out. But we don't have any, any sort of scripture or I mean, lightly anyway, when you start looking at, parts of the Bible and stuff like that. But there's nothing there's no manual that says, okay, these things in the sky, here's what they were, chapter 1, and it was written by the Egyptians or someone, that we just don't have all of those answers for. But anyway,
we got to be real careful too, us as a UFO community.
Yeah.
Because, I do believe that parts of the Bible or religious scriptures include the phenomena. At the same time, like you said, there's ancient aliens, and they take it way too far, and they become really weird. So there's always
Right.
a fine line. It could get
Yeah,
really corny really fast.
that's the slippery slope with this topic. You know, it's just you can really, really, really lose lose control when you go down this rabbit hole. Because here's the thing, right? If you and I are going to sit here at this table and we're both going to come to the conclusion that we know something's there, okay? We don't know what it is, but we know it's not terrestrial. So if the theory, and it seems like the prevalent one, is that this is an extraterrestrial presence, if that is true, and let's just for a second believe that that's fact, what else is true? You know, like the problem with that is that it opens up all of these theories because that one truth is true now. You know, well, who the hell are you to say there aren't lizard people living underground? Or who the hell are you to say there's no Antarctic bases, you know, underground? Or who the hell are you to say there's no monolith on Mars? Like, it's like, you know, okay, look, just because this one thing is true, we can't just automatically, it doesn't apply to everything else. And it's hard, man. It's really, really hard.
And I'm blessed to be able to talk to some of these people that I respect greatly, or people that talk to them. And the average person is just going on Google and they're reading wild stuff, and it's horrible, and it's wrong.
Yeah,
it's racist.
but it's nice to know that folks like you, folks like me, folks like a Ryan Sprague, like an Alejandro Rojas, like, you know, there's a lot of places for people to stumble into, I think, good information. And so that's what you know, no matter what the UFO theory, where it comes from, if it gets people interested, I'm all for it. You know, I'm just hoping that those people eventually find the information that is the most credible. You know, that's not going to make them, because look, I live in Los Angeles, California. I've got cool actor friends. I've been known to go to a cool party here and there, and I can go to a party and I can have this conversation, and they want my number and my information when the conversation's over. They're not looking for somebody else in the party to be like, you know, how the hell do I get out of this convo? It's engaging. It's an interesting conversation, especially when you start laying out the people that are talking about it, the entities that are, you know, interacting with it. So yeah, it's no longer a tinfoil hat discussion. And thanks to folks like you, it's becoming that.
Yeah, it is hard, and that there is still that slippery slope. And I want the hip hop community and the youth and the youthful, you know, just youth coming up to focus on the right conspiracies. Yeah. Who am I to say what's right and what's wrong? Well, I am. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like I'll be talking. Sometimes I'll be talking to regular people, and they'll be like telling them about UFOs. They'll be like, "Yeah, did you know also that the Earth is flat and Beyonce is a lizard?"
Right.
Like, gosh, damn it.
Yeah.
So I just want them focusing on the right stuff.
Right.
I think the more that we're putting out credible information, maybe we're going to be chipping away at all this other crazy stuff. Not every conspiracy is real. That's why a lot of UFO people want to kind of push ourselves away and separate ourselves from all these other conspiracies, because it gets too muddy, it gets too stupid. Yeah. We just want to stick to the facts, and at least just stick to UFOs for now, at least.
Yeah, no, that's what we're trying to do. You know, that's what we're trying to do. We try to keep it as grounded as possible around here. But it is fun to just think about it, you know? And
especially with consciousness and all this other stuff that Bigelow's interested in. A lot of that is credible to me. I mean, most of it is credible. My friend UFO Joe's really into a lot of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not an expert on a lot of it, but, you know, there's other things, not just UFOs, reincarnation, consciousness, and all this other stuff that's very credible to me and could be true.
Well, I'm starting to learn that I really have to come to the comfortable with the idea that just because the messenger of the theory, or, I'll just say a Stephen Greer, just because the messenger may come off as kooky or weird or crazy, maybe even to you, doesn't mean that the message he's saying is wrong. You know, maybe he's on to something there. Maybe he is. And there's a lot of smart people who are like, well, actually, yeah, he is. And I hate to break it to you, Christina Gomez just blew my mind when she said this. She's like, that's nothing new. They've been doing this for thousands of years. It's called meditation. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. He kind of just, you know, put a different name on it. And I was like, interesting, you know, like, yes, she's right. Like there is something about meditation. There is something about group think and getting on that wavelength with people. I do a lot of improv comedy in Los Angeles. And, you know, that is taking one word between five people and doing a 45-minute set based off of one word. You really got to be able to read each other's minds. There are moments where you're going to say the exact same thing because you're on this group mind. You're just on a different plane. And there is something to be said about that aspect of the phenomenon. So I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah, man. And if you're interested in the CE5 stuff, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I have my friend James Iandoli on. He'd be a great guest.
He is coming on. I've been talking to him. He's just been prepping because he's one of the guys, when I mentioned, a really smart dude that's very rational, who's like, hey, Lou, you should look at this. And I'm like, all right, dude, look, if you're saying I should look at this, I'll take a look at it. Because I love saying on this show, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong on UFOs, man. You're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong all the time. It's just, what do you do when you make that mistake? Do you correct it or do you keep digging your heels in? You know, and I think the days of people digging their heels in are starting to die down. I hope, you know, in some cases, of course, that'll never happen. But I think, like, you just going back to what we said earlier, it's working, dude. It's working. Everything we're doing is working.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Elizondo and Mellon and all these guys, it's working what they've done. It's great to see. And every time more mass media gets involved in a positive and credible way and not laughing and taking it seriously, we know it's great. And man, this UAPTF report is awesome. The task force is awesome.
It's like giddy, dude. It's like, dude, this is exciting times. Like, we should be very stoked about this. Okay, so let's talk quickly because yesterday was some big news, right? Like, we could call this big news. George Knapp Mystery Wire, they released 3 photos, right? That are in conjunction with this Batman balloon that people were talking about. So let me share this screen because I want people to sort of see what we're talking about here. So first of all, everybody's super pissed about these watermarks. I think that's so goddamn funny to me. I'm like, well, you guys don't understand marketing? Like, you guys don't get it? Like, why you would put a martyr? Well, of course, dude. Everybody's now going to go to Mystery Wire and go, what the hell is this? This is brilliant. I take my hats off to George Knapp. If I were you, I say, keep the fucking watermarks on, dude. I think it's great. I love it. I love the watermarks. Okay. I wanted to get your thoughts on this event because we did have this photo come out in I think it was late December.
It was a slightly different one, but it was the same.
Yeah, slightly different one. This is actually way blurrier, this one. I think it's because it's the same object, but a little farther away, correct?
Or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. So what were your initial thoughts on these photos?
On those 3?
Yeah.
Well, when the first one came out.
Which was this one? Or no, are you talking about the original December one?
Yeah, it was that.
Yeah, okay.
With the Nikon, the acorn. I didn't have much thoughts. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I talked to a top source. If I said the person's name, it would blow everyone's pants off.
Yeah.
And they told me it was figured out behind the scenes and it was a balloon and it shouldn't have ever been printed and all this stuff. And I was like, sure of it. Come later on. And I opened my big mouth when I shouldn't have. It was a big mistake. And then a few weeks later, I heard, well, there's more pictures of it. And it's not a balloon. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I do this sometimes when I'm writing my blogs. I'll ask all these sources, and if they all agree, then I'll know I'm onto something. If they don't agree, then I'll be like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't write about it because the greatest sources don't agree.
Right.
In this case, I should have kept my mouth shut because sources don't necessarily agree, and I should have just kept it moving and not open my mouth on Twitter. Hey, that's what I did. But then I came out after that and said, you know, I did hear there's other pictures, like the debrief is saying. You know, I want this to be a UFO because if it's not, then the UAPTF and the Navy and these guys, they are not doing a good job, basically, to be blunt.
Right. Right.
So this one, is it a balloon? Is it a UFO? I'm not 100% convinced it's not a balloon, but it could be a drone. It could be a UFO. I hope it's a UFO. If it is a drone, it's some really, really weird one. If it is a balloon, I guess it would be unlikely at this point. Yeah. But hey, it still does look like that Batman balloon.
Yeah.
But okay. Hey, who am I to know? I don't know. I wasn't there, and maybe it is some crazy UFO. I hope it is.
Yeah.
And then moving on to that blimp one.
This one here
looks weird, doesn't it? That looks really, really weird.
Yeah.
To me, looks like a UFO, or it could be an advanced drone.
Yeah. I mean, to me, look, if you want my gut opinion on these photos, I didn't like them. I hate these photos because I feel like there are a million explanations that you could throw at these photos that could be a pretty decent explanation. One of them,
I was talking about that on Twitter, where like you don't want people arguing about it.
Yeah, man. It just, I feel like this is, for me, this is firepower for a Mick West. Yeah. This is like him just loading up his gun, and he loves shit like this because he can find a million examples of something like this in the sky.
The thing is, though, people are always going to be arguing about this stuff. Mm-hmm. We want to see it, so I say just give it to us. Screw the arguing; it's going to happen anyways. It's been happening since before you and me were interested in UFOs.
Right.
I'm new to this too. This being from 2017, I'm new, and people are like have been arguing for decades and decades and hating each other's guts before the internet, the whole UFO community.
Right.
If it's not the UFO community, it's golfers hate each other, or it's people that trade stocks. They all hate each other anyways.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen. So part of me is just like, give us everything. Screw the haters. Let's all talk about it. Let's argue about it. Fine. I just want to see what they got. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this, okay? I made a really fervent argument when that first picture came out. The thing that people were calling a Batman balloon, it really pissed me off that people were calling it a Batman balloon, because when you say something like that, it immediately, you're insulting the intelligence of an F-18 fighter pilot. Why would an F-18 fighter pilot in the middle of flight, okay, which, burns thousands of dollars just in fuel per second. Like, this is just a bank with a really powerful rocket attached to it. And why would they reach into one of their 4 million pockets and whip out their phone to take a picture of a party balloon and then put that into a report and possibly be made to look like a fool if his name ever came out of that report or if these pictures ever surfaced? Like, why would they go through the trouble of putting this into a report? That, to me, is the biggest reason to believe that these photos are genuine, because I don't think they would do circles around Party City balloons and take pictures with their iPhone, because these guys know what they're looking at when they fly in the sky. And based off of the descriptions, these things were not moving. They were very stationary. And that's one thing that George did say. George Knapp said that these things did not display the characteristics of the Tic Tac. So, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. people are going to fight about this no matter what. We might as well get the photos. So maybe I do stand corrected on that. But this is not the evidence that is going to, I think, change the everyday average Joe. I think they're going to look at this and they're going to go,
right. It's not a smoking gun.
It's not a smoking gun.
And not without more data.
Right. I mean,
that's always been the problem with Gimbal and Go Fast.
Right.
We haven't had necessarily the direct witnesses. We had a few like Danny Coyne and some of those guys, but we need more witnesses. We need data. It wasn't like, that's what sets the Tic Tac out. It sets it apart from everything else.
Right.
We have Fravor, who was right there, and we have the video, but we still don't have a lot of the data.
And in the case of the Tic Tac or the Go Fast, we've got the cockpit audio, which is great. I think that's also wonderful data. I love listening to the cockpit audio on those things. I think
that's really cool.
Oh, dude, it's really cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, I need, God, dude, we were talking about this before the pre-show. Like, if these pictures came out, and then they also doubled down with some radar tracking info, and they said, "Hey, look, this is where we saw them. This is the height they were at. We don't know what they were. Our pilots took pictures." Like, just some sort of statement with these. It's just, it's fun. It's fun. But past that, I it's just not something I would go to my friends with and be like, "Hey, did you see this?"
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's why it's so great when politicians talk or when
right
guys come forward. Yeah,
right.
these pictures, right? This isn't something we necessarily want to show the general public. Maybe, although people are still going to pick it up. And when that one picture was released the first time by the debrief and Tim and Millen, it did go viral in a little way and was getting picked up and people were looking at it. So it's still really cool, but it's not the evidence that we want. It's not a smoking gun without more accompanying it. A lot of people are complaining that, if it was a plane was doing it, why did they use their cell phone cameras? Why aren't we seeing the gun camera footage and extra? I don't know what the answer to that is.
Well, maybe that plane wasn't equipped with one.
Right.
That could be as simple as that.
There's all these other situations. It's like, why aren't they releasing the rest of this? And I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, nobody knows, and that's what I try to tell people all the time. Listen, we're the lapdogs, man. We kind of just have to sit here at the bottom of the table and pray that a scrap falls off the table because we're going to gobble it up. And I think that's exactly what this photo did. People are thirsty for anything. So, it's fun to look at, but this doesn't move the needle for me. I want to know, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell also said, this is not it. So I want to know what else is coming this week,
especially from this week.
Yeah.
From what they're saying, from what Jeremy's saying, it's going to be very exciting. Now, that's another conspiracy theory I've heard, actually, is that they're kind of just, they, as in the military or the government, they're kind of just throwing scraps to the public and over the fence. Mm-hmm. We're just kind of getting our little scraps in, and it's not the meal. And I think probably that in a way that's true. We're just getting these little scraps. So that's what we need to keep fighting to find stuff out for ourselves.
I don't even want the meal, Danny. I'll take a side. You know what I mean? Just give me like a corn on the cob. Give me a spoon of mashed potatoes, I'll take anything, dude. I'll take anything. Okay. Well, dude, okay. We've had you on here for an hour and 18 minutes. Do you have any other thoughts on these photos?
I think it just shows the bigger picture of what's going on. These were on the East Coast reportedly. We know the spheres, and I've written a bunch of blogs on it. And there's all these weird things flying around. This is pictures of some weird things. So and they were flying around, or at least staying there, or something. So this kind of goes along with a lot of what we were hearing about from the East Coast. So that's really cool. And it didn't just occur in 2015. These were from 2019 or whatever it was. Yeah. So this is really interesting, and it's just more data points. If this by itself isn't maybe that great, but you add it to the whole story of the gimbal and the go fast and what Marco Rubio was saying. Hey, instead of them showing these provenly false videos on Fox, why don't they splash these pictures up there? Yeah. While Lewis and other guys are talking that aren't 100% proven false. So these would be better things, and it's just more in our repertoire to show people along with the other stuff, not just by itself.
Yeah. Well, what I love about the leak of the Acorn photo in December is that for me, it confirmed, okay, so there is a report. I don't give a shit what this photo is. All I know is that it came out of a report, and that report was from the UAPTF. So, for me, that's enough. Like, that's enough. The photo's great, but until I get radar tracking info or cockpit recording or, like you said, pilot testimony, it's just a photo, unfortunately. Okay, so Danny, before you go, are you going to be joining us on the 24th? You going to stop by, say hello?
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
We can't wait to have you, dude. I don't know what or anything you have planned for the day, if you're gonna call, text, tweet.
Whatever you need from me,
Yeah, I mean, do it all, man. Do it all, you know. What I would love for you to do is just encourage everyone that reads your stuff to join us, you know, and join us in the fun. We're gonna have a good time. We just got Robert Powell. Robert Powell's gonna be joining us from the SCU. He's gonna bring some friends. So, you know, we're gonna try and help Lou Elizondo, help Christopher Mellon, help all of these guys, you know, including, you know, guys like you that have been doing all of this legwork, all of this reporting, all of this citizen activism and journalism. You guys have done so much damn work. I mean, I just want to help you guys. I just want to help you guys. And I just want to get as much data for you guys, folks like you, to really pour over so then I could watch your shit or read your shit and then do my show, because you're the content for my show, because your information is so solid. It's so good. And I love that you've corrected me on some facts here too, man, because you know, hey, I'm just a guy.
I'm just a guy, and I get stuff wrong all the time, man.
All the time. And that's okay, dude. That's okay.
Yeah. And you just got to surround yourself with the smartest people. And I feel really stupid when I'm talking to my friends, and everyone, it seems, I think, is smarter than me.
Well, I can tell you this, dude. We have one interview that we got coming up on the 14th. We're actually going to do 2 interviews that day. We're going to do an interview with Gaucho at night, the Undead Gaucho, and then during the day, we're going to do an interview with Mick West.
Awesome.
So that one,
a lot of people hate him.
I agree.
And we need him because we need to know what they're going to say, what the haters will say, what the debunkers will say.
I agree.
So I think he's good, and plus he's not a jerk. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Even though
he could be a little pompous. Yeah, he could be a little pompous with his presentation. But I think in some cases it's hilarious.
Yeah. He's like you want to be your own worst critic, and he's our worst critic right off the bat. So.
Yeah, and we need that because, like you said, I can't wait to talk to him, because I think he's painting himself into a corner that he's not going to like in 5 to 10 years. He's going to feel really lonely in this corner he's painted himself into, because he's just so, I don't know what his deal is. We're going to dive in. I'm going to talk to him and we're going to try and find out. But I think you're right. I agree 100%. He's an ally. But like the first thing, like this photo, dude, he's already got an explanation for this photo, and it's a broken lens, and he has an example. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, that could easily be it. They could be it. Like, I can't argue with Mick on this one, and I fucking hate that. But he's necessary. He's a necessary evil.
Yeah, he's a necessary evil. Now, Mick has been right about stuff too. I will say that.
Yes.
He probably forgot it. Right when To the Stars Academy started, you know, me and him and everyone, just like now, would always be going back and forth. He bet me from 10-1 odds that To the Stars Academy would not come out with anti-gravitic tech in 10 years.
Oh my God.
And I took the bet.
Yeah.
So in 2027, I'm going to owe him $10 to come out with that shit. And it's not looking good for my $10 right now.
Nope, it is not. It is not looking good for your $10 at all. I mean, they closed the shop, I think, in San Diego. You can't even buy the merch there at the shop anymore.
I think they're gonna relocate that, but you know, a lot of people invested because they wanted that technology. They wanted this stuff. And that's I don't know. Maybe we should be looking at where Steve Justice went.
Well, he went to Virgin.
Yeah, and they just came out with those ships, so those are pretty cool. They're
those
not exactly
very cool,
but maybe that's what he's working on.
Man, I would love for somebody to talk to Steve Justice and be like, okay, what the hell happened? What was this ship all about? What was this drawing for? There are so many questions I have about that drawing, because I want to know. I mean, I'm sure you have the same questions. Like, what the fuck is that thing? How does it fly? What is the engine? Where did you come up with the engine? Do you think it'll work? You know, like, I mean, just so many questions when I saw that. I mean, did you invest in TTSA?
Yeah. I put $700 in, around 700.
Yeah,
which isn't the end of the world for me. It's fine.
Yeah,
and I when I did it as a donation, so I'm not mad. Other people I do know put a lot more money in that than me in. Yeah, and they did it for the technology aspect. They wanted the technology that's going to change the world. You know, Tom was tweeting that it has to be a public company, or else the government will snatch up the technology. and all this stuff. But hey, hindsight is 2020, and I don't want to be too down on the guy. But they did take a lot of money from people that were just strictly investing in the tech. So that bums me out. That's sad. That sucks. But hey, I invested as a donation, so it's all good with me.
Yeah, I bet a lot of that money went into production stuff, producing things, producing books. You know, I know they were doing films and comic books and T-shirts and all sorts of stuff. But yeah. Anyway, well, hopefully, you know.
And it's not Tom's fault, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's Tom's fault either. I would like to see. I wonder what's next for Tom. You know, can he still pick up the phone? Can he still write an email? And does he still? I wonder if he's been locked out. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think he still is the man in some ways. You know, he did a lot of this on his own, and he did a lot of great things. And I think he still has that potential to flip this around. Also, maybe he's going to come out with some, you know, movie that's going to be like some blockbuster hit, and everyone is going to get their money back, and they're not going to care.
Well, what's funny?
So good.
I met an actor from the film while I was playing golf a couple of weeks ago. I'm gonna get him to stop by the phone home, and we're gonna talk about the movie as much as we can anyway. You know, so that'll be fun. All right. Well,
the movie. It sounds cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, look, when I was on the golf course with him, I was like, tell me what the set was like, because I'm an actor as well. He's like, dude, it was a great set. Tom was cool. Everybody was chill. It was a pretty good script. I was like, all right, you know, that's always nice to hear, you know?
Yeah. And we say they moved away from the tech, but hey, the creative is still going on, apparently, allegedly. So anything could happen, I guess. And
anything.
In a way, Tom's a genius.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anything can happen. I don't expect that he has his back against the wall, but you know, I'm still rooting for him.
Yeah. Well, I would like to see. I'd like to see another Joe Rogan interview of him.
Yeah.
You know, or long form interview. Any long form interview from anyone would be great, because I would like to know. I mean, I'm sure we'll get the details. It's probably the wounds are probably a little too fresh. I'm sure in 3 or 4 years we'll get more details of what exactly broke down and why guys went their separate ways, and you know what happened to the investors' money, and I'm sure all of those things will come out. But it's, you know, we just gotta wait. Well, Mr. Silva, I've taken up a lot of your time, and and I feel like this is a time machine, because time is almost non-existent in this bubble as I've been talking to you. But I'm glad you're on board for the big phone home. I'm glad you stopped by and talked to me today. I'm glad I got to know you. And the door's open anytime you want to come on, chat UFOs, chat new news, anytime, dude. Door's open, and I can't wait to see you on the 24th.
Ditto, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and please, before you go, tell everyone where they can find your stuff. And by the way, I've got Danny Silva's link tree in the comment section down below. So everything Danny Silva is in one thing. You can go right now in the comment section and find that. I'm going to bring up also the Silva Record here so people can check this out while you talk about it. Tell me about the Silva Record. You know, what's your favorite part about this? Where can people go to find the juiciest stuff? How do I navigate this bad boy?
Basically, it's just a kind of a timeline of blogs I've written. I've really been slacking this year bad on it. I haven't updated it in a while. I've been doing more interviews than I've been doing blogs. I've been just trying to make ends meet in my personal life.
Yeah.
But that's not really an excuse. So
well, no,
I get back to it and start writing more. But
don't be so damn hard on yourself, man. You got to live. You got to live, Mr. Silva. And your name's not Linda Bolton Howe. All right, so you're not paying the rent with this.
I don't really make, even my Patreon is very, very pathetic, and I don't support myself off this UFO stuff. I'd like to one day, but
it'd be nice.
It just doesn't happen. And so it's just kind of a timeline. You can go back to the first blog and see the timeline of basically the last 3 years. And I busted my butt on it, and I'm not going to let it die or anything like that. And I do have a new blog coming out eventually that I've been working on forever. But also, back then, 3 years ago, there wasn't a lot of people with outlets for information, and now there is, and now there's other people. So it doesn't have to just be me and a few others. Now there's a lot of other great people reporting. But anyone can dig in there, and they can also email me. There's a contact form on there if they want to talk. There is a learning curve with all this stuff, and they can ask me questions, and I'll try to walk them through it as best I can.
Yeah, well, dude, I really respect your work. I think you're doing amazing stuff, and don't be too hard on yourself. And if you guys got a second, go check out Danny's work. I mean, he's got a YouTube page. He's got all sorts of ways that you could support him if you want to see more. So do it. You know, if you want more great information, guys like this need your support. So do your best to support voices like this in the UAP community, because they go a long way. And so with that said, Mr. Silva, thank you so much for coming aboard Getting Weird with me here. Before we go, I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the music you hear on the show. And of course, I want to say thank you to all of you guys out there. Chris Wolford, dude, welcome. Alien Scientist, Steven, Rodrigo, C, Matthew Capozzoli. That's very, I'm assuming Italian. Alien Girl 111, thank you so much for being here. Grandmaster UV, you guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for all the support. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to ring that bell so you don't miss out on beautiful people like this when they come on the show. So until next time, sir. Until next time, everyone. Be safe out there. Peace. Unidentified. Unidentified.